This is Finland. And if the government's ambitious climate ambitions are met, Finland will be the first European country to achieve net zero emissions. The Nordic country hopes to accomplish this target by 2035, but has now aimed to go one step further by pledging to become net carbon negative, meaning absorbing more carbon dioxide than it emits, by 2040. Finland is now well ahead of the EU's 2050 aim for carbon balance, making it a world leader in emissions reduction. Other countries, such as South Sudan, have a closer target of 2030, but, as a developing country, it is dependent on international climate finance to achieve neutrality. Finland's new medium-term climate plan, agreed by the government on June 2, 2022, is based on the findings of an independent group of economists from the Finnish Climate Change Panel. Finland's fair part of the global climate budget was calculated by experienced economists based on the country's population, ability to pay for emissions reductions, and historical responsibility for the climate catastrophe. This was based on the maximum amount of 420 more gigatons the world can afford to produce to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Using the same metric, they determined that the EU and Germany must achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by the early 2030s in order to comply with the Paris Agreement and the objectives of climate justice. In comparison to neighboring Sweden, which has similar national emissions to Finland but nearly double the population, aspires to achieve carbon neutrality by 2040 due to larger carbon sinks. However, the researchers warned that depending on natural carbon sinks has drawbacks. Trees and soil, for example, are predicted to change dramatically over the next 3 decades. Finland, with vast snowy forests covering 75% of the country, has significant natural advantages to assist it on its way, and it is critical to protect these woodlands. According to new data, Finland's forests transitioned from total carbon stocks to emitters for the first time last year. This was because Finland was deforesting at a greater rate than the trees could compensate for the emitted carbon. In response to the alarming news, Environment and Climate Change Minister Emma Carey said the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry is currently developing a climate plan for the land use sector. Currently, enormous expanses of forest are cut down by logging firms, processed into pulp and paper, and then burned as a kind of bioenergy, which is frequently but controversially labeled as renewable. The good news is that last year emissions decreased in the effort-sharing sector, Carey said, referring to the transportation, agricultural, building, and garbage industries. The government intends to cut emissions from these industries in half by 2030 in order to attain carbon neutrality in Finland, as well as developing the country into a fossil fuel-free welfare state for the co-benefits of climate and security. The minister told Climate Home News that Russia's invasion of Ukraine sped up Finland's energy transition, influencing it to adopt wind energy and energy efficiency. However, in the near term, it has resulted in some climate regulations being relaxed, such as the proportion of renewable fuel that oil dealers must include in their mix this year. The country must make sure the transition is fair for the whole population. The new plan ensured to include various kinds of financial support to both households and local governments so that the process of phasing out fossil fuels will be as just as possible. Another measure being enacted is a distance-based transport tax. The country also intends to reduce methane output from dairy cows and cut emissions from peatlands in the agriculture business. Climate action will also be implemented at the municipal level, with new law on local government obligations coming in the autumn of 2022. Importantly, Finland is attempting to accomplish its audacious aim in 13 years without the use of international carbon offsets, in which one country pays another to decrease emissions on its behalf. Such schemes have been heavily criticized by climate campaigners for multiple reasons, including neo-colonial critiques. It looks from this policy that Finland is definitely leading the way to a brighter future. However, as a small nation, this step could be undermined by the actions of larger nations like the US and China. Hopefully, these actions are not in vain and the larger emitters of the world will follow suit with equally ambitious targets. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and will like and subscribe for more.